Oh, hello there. We didn't see you.
Welcome to drama
With Llamas.
in Pajamas.
We are the Drama Llamas. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Athanasia, and we are classical actors who have been making art together since Uber was an adjective.
We are here with you today to help bring you into the world of classical theater. We hope to teach you how to understand mostly Shakespeare, but also other classical playwrights and genres.
Remember, no one wrote a play hoping it would bore you, so we hope to help you not only understand, but to enjoy this work as well.
So, get comfy in your pajamas.
Grab your llamas,
And let's do some drama!
They met me in the day of success, and I have learned by the perfectest report they have more in them than mortal knowledge. When I burned in desire to question them further, they made themselves air, into which they vanished. Whilst I stood wrapped in the wonder of it, came missives from the king, who all hailed me Thane of Cawdor, by which title before the weird sisters saluted me, and referred me to the coming on of time with Hail, King, that shalt be. This have I thought good to deliver thee, my dearest partner of greatness, that thou mightst not lose the dues of rejoicing by being ignorant of what greatness is promised thee. Lay it to thy heart, and farewell. Glamis thou art, and Cawdor, and shalt be what thou art promised. Yet I do fear thy nature. It is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way. Thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it. What thou wouldst highly, that wouldst thou holily, wouldst not play false, and yet wouldst wrongly win. Thou'st have, great Glams, that which cries, this thou must do, if thou have it, and that which rather thou dost fear to do, than wishest should be undone. Hie thee hither, that I may pour my spirits in thine ear, and chastise with the valor of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round, which fate and metaphysical aid doth seem to have thee crowned withal.
What is it about Lady Macbeth that calls you to this particular character? Why did you decide to share her with our audience?
Lady Macbeth is one of the most complex and sympathetic characters in all of Shakespeare, and she's very misunderstood today. She is primarily a wife and a mother. We know that in Shakespeare's sources, she had a name, a first name, and it's never used. She's always Lady Macbeth, or the Queen, or whatever, but she's aligned with her husband specifically. And we know from what she discusses with her husband that she has lost a child, and that, this is disturbing to her. In one of her more famous monologues, more famous than the one you saw, the one where the line "unsex me here" comes from, she is specifically asking the evil spirits to take away her motherly and sensitive qualities, to make her capable of committing the political assassination that she believes is necessary to make her husband happy and achieve his ambitions. She feels like she needs to take on qualities other than the ones she naturally possesses. So she can't be a bad girl if she needs help, committing this political coup. in the Tragic Triangle episode, which if you haven't seen, go back and watch it. We talked about how Macbeth loves her a lot and how their relationship is uniquely equal and close and in tune especially compared with a lot of the other marriages from the period in an even more patriarchal society than we have today. And so that marriage is very, very important to her. She has this multifaceted ability, though, to be the nurturing, caring, motherly, wifely person, as well as be very strong, tough, kind of ruthless. We see her braiding her husband. We see her being kind of seductive, being very persuasive in a political way. And so this is a wonderful opportunity for an actor and a wonderful opportunity for anyone looking to analyze this play as well, to look into all of her qualities that she uses to navigate her world and reach her goal.
Okay. So typically people tend to make Lady Macbeth the villain, but I know that you have a different take. Hashtag hot take. Why do you think that Lady Macbeth isn't a villain and she's just misunderstood?
This is one of those times when the actor really needs to understand the time period in which the play is written and in which the play was set. Actually, it was set about 500 years earlier than Shakespeare was writing, in the 11th century. Committing a political assassination was pretty normal back then. Shakespeare paints this very darkly, the assassination of Duncan, as a murder, because he wants to cast Macbeth in a negative light, since one of the reasons he wrote this play was to flatter the new King of England, who had just taken over after the death of Elizabeth I. James I, who had been James VI of Scotland. You may remember from our Tragic Triangle episode.
And our history episode, I think we mentioned this too.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
That's true. Mm-hmm. But you may remember the scene where Macbeth asks to see if Banquo's sons and grandsons and whatever will rule in this kingdom, and the apparitions go across the stage, and he talks about how some of them have twofold balls and treble scepters, meaning they're ruling multiple countries, and this is meant to symbolize Scotland, England, Wales, Ireland, all of the different places that, and like parts of France maybe, that that James I either already controls or wants to control. So anyone who was doing Banquo dirty and wanting to take Banquo's future away from him, Shakespeare wants to make look bad. But, be that as it may, in the 11th century, political coups and assassinations like this were a regular occurrence. I once heard a fellow actor say the only person who would have been surprised by Macbeth killing Duncan was Duncan. And so it highlights a difference between Lady Macbeth and her husband, and why her husband is really such a tragic figure in this. She advocates violence for a very specific, targeted political reason to accomplish her goal. And he ends up going down quite the rabbit hole and committing violence rather gratuitously. And again, as I mentioned, Lady Macbeth has recently lost a child. She and her husband have this fantastic relationship behind closed doors. You hear how he addresses her in the letter and how she describes him. But to the outside world, if you were the wife of a noble thane, you had one job. You had one job, and that was to provide an heir. And she has not done that yet. We do not get from any level of context how old these characters are, but they don't have other children. They've been married long enough to have kind of a routine going with their marriage. So maybe they've been struggling for a while. And the king was thought of as a father of the state. So she's probably having some self-worth issues as a noblewoman of the period, and this fulfilling this ambition of her husband's that maybe isn't totally her husband's at first. He's kind of wishy-washy on it in the beginning, is her way of giving him the role of fatherhood that he has been denied thus far. So that's how she perceives the political assassination, the coup situation. We do not condone political violence in the modern world for any reason. Like,
it's not okay today.
Nope. If you're having self-worth issues, please seek mental health resources instead of picking up a weapon. But you know.
But back in the time of Macbeth.
Right. That's why we save the drama for thy llama. And put it on the stage instead of off the stage. Now, the audience doesn't need to know any of this context. By no means am I being highbrow and saying, well, nobody can understand Macbeth if they haven't researched what it was like in the 11th century with coups. That's nonsense. The actor has to know this, because then a wide range of emotional and mental possibilities are opened up to them that wouldn't be otherwise. And texts, one of the things I love about Macbeth is there's so much ambiguity in the text. You could play a role 10 times, do it differently every time, and there's a lot of room for multiple things to be true at once. People are complicated. Even in a formulaic tragedy, they're not just a hero or a villain.
So what about the mad scene? Do you think that Lady Macbeth has actually gone crazy because of all the horrible things that she's done and the things that she's convinced her husband to do? Or do you think that there's something more than just like she's feeling guilty and so it's driven her mad going on there?
I think it's the actor's choice. If she has gone crazy, I wouldn't blame her. If I put myself in her shoes and I imagine, because the last thing you hear before the mad scene, if I'm not mistaken, is that Macduff's children have been murdered. And royalty intermarried a lot. These are people that Lady Macbeth would have known and possibly been related to. She might have attended these children's christenings. Lady Macduff might have been her cousin. And the fact that her husband, whom she trusts and adores and just wants to make happy, has put them to the sword. And why? Because their dad didn't show up to his party. Like, that's just
Macbeth has gone a little off script from where Lady Macbeth meant for him to go.
Yeah, and so when you think about how it was even up until in some ways the 1970s, women lacked legal personhood in marriage. This is the person whom she is literally joined to. She shares a bed with him. She shares finances with him. He has a lot of control over her life. And in fact, he has a lot of control over everyone's life now because he's king. And she has trusted him with her deepest, darkest, intimate everything, right? They're trying to start a family together. And she has put a lot on the line for him and sacrificed some of her personal qualities and changed herself. They say don't change yourself for a man. Like, this is why. This is why. Because they might turn out to be a serial killer. my mental health under a similar situation, it wouldn't be great. But technically, she doesn't have to be mad. It is a sleepwalking scene. And I don't think she's necessarily reenacting or reliving the scenes from Duncan's murder because she's guilty about Duncan's murder. Although she might be to a certain extent, and I'm sure that she regrets taking that action because of the fallout. She might not necessarily care one way or the other that this king is dead because, like I said, coups happened all the time. But, you know, and she may or may not be traumatized by, like, having to go put the daggers back in the bloody, you know, aftermath. But she's trying to process what happened to her husband. And there are other scenes that she reenacts, like the party scene where he sees the ghost of Banquo and nobody else does, and she's trying to calm him down. So she, you know, she's processing these things ostensibly in her dreams, and she's just kind of not in sleep paralysis at the time. And this is also purely for the plot. Sometimes you gotta do something for the plot. It's a deus ex machina, so that her secret starts to come out, Macbeth's secret starts to come out. The Lady Macbeth's doctor and her gentlewoman witness this whole thing and are commenting on it the entire time. Interestingly, they don't evince any disgust or anger about her and what she's done. They feel for her. They, you know,
because coups were normal.
Because coups were normal, and also, you know, because everybody's kind of souring on Macbeth at this point, and you know, who's more subject to him than the person who lives with him who's more subject to that than the person who lives with him all the time. There are also some just incredible bits of text in this piece, in this scene. And not because they're powerful turns of phrase that are, you know, being a wizard with his pen, the way we talk about the reasons to love Shakespeare. They're incredibly simple, but they get at you for that reason. One line that stands out is, "The Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now?" And that's almost like a creepy nursery rhyme, like Ring Around the Rosie, where, like, clearly everyone dies. And at one point when she's talking about the smell of the blood, it just says in the text, O, comma, O, comma, O. And, like, not even H's, just the letter O. And that's an invitation for the actor to just make sounds. And everyone does it differently. It can happen differently every night. And what the doctor says after that is, "What a sigh is there. The heart is sorely charged." It's a window into her humanity. And this is the last we see of her before we hear that she has died. You know, that's not a spoiler alert. This is a tragedy. She's a main character. Like,
as we said, in the tragic triangle, everyone dies.
Everyone dies. Everyone important dies. But this is it brings her full circle back to her sensitive, nurturing, much more human, relatable self from the tough girl she's been trying to affect from, like, acts 2 through 4.
Yeah, so it's kind of like Shakespeare is using, like, the writer's ploy of, like, making the audience feel sad when she dies. And as we said in the tragic triangle, you know, if you don't like the characters, you wouldn't care when the bad stuff happens to them or when they die. That's what makes it a tragedy.
So one of the things that, as I mentioned before, makes this play great is that there's tons of ambiguities in this text. And you could play this role 10 different times, which, like, sign me up, right? 10 different times and do it 10 different ways. And it's not 100% clear, you know, what is supposed to happen, what Shakespeare intended. Like, yes, there is some evidence about the political climate of the time and how Macbeth himself is supposed to be and how Banquo is supposed to be, but everybody else, like, a little bit of a free-for-all. And when you read certain lines, they could mean so many different things. And you have to bring whatever emotional or mental weight to it that just strikes you. It's another thing that's great about discussing it in kind of a learning context. You know,
Yeah.
I first was exposed to this play in school, and
I'm sure many people were.
yes, and the way that it hit me was not the way that it hit, you know, one of my friends, was not the way that, you know, my teacher envisioned us interpreting it. So, as we always say in Shakespeare, you decide.
Well, and also just because even in our, I forget which episode it is, but we're talking about Macbeth, and we say most people think ambition is his, it was the tragic triangle. We say ambition is his tragic flaw, but we took our hot take and said that it was indecisiveness.
Yeah.
So even Macbeth can go different directions.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why this play is such a classic. That's one of the reasons why, as we mentioned in the Superstition episode, which if you haven't seen, you should definitely go back and watch. If a theater company is falling on hard times, they're gonna pull out Macbeth and bring in a crowd, because you never really know what you're gonna get when you go see Macbeth. There are 100 ways to do it, and you know, people are on the edge of their seats to see who's directing it, who's in it, like what are they gonna do, what's the concept. You can really map almost anything onto it, which is kind of amazing considering it was written for a specific political context. But yeah, it's a text that we return to again and again. It's one whose words and phrases have totally infiltrated our culture. And I would love to see everybody have the positive, approving view of Lady Macbeth that I do, and see her as a nuanced, complete human being instead of just, you know, oh, she's mean, she's vicious, she wants to kill somebody.
Yeah, she's crazy.
She's crazy.
She cray-cray.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Athanasia, for that beautiful monologue and for giving us a up-close and personal view into the mind of one of Shakespeare's strong female characters. Go back and watch episode 12 if you would like to see some more strong ladies, and join us next time for a deep dive into the mind of Mercutio from Romeo and Juliet, right on the heels of Valentine's Day. Make sure to mark the date in your planner.
Because if it's not in your planner, it doesn't exist.
And please remember, if you like our vibe,
there is that button that is called subscribe.